One of the things that we in the church do a lot is we tell everybody around us that we've got the truth, that what we say is true and right and correct. And if everybody would just listen to us and do what we say, it would be so much better and we would see everything change. And we constantly like to emphasize that we have the truth, that we're telling the truth. But do we fact check ourselves and make sure that what we're actually saying is true? Back when I lived in Florida, we had some well-meaning people in our church that like to forward everything they got in email. If you're older, you probably remember the old chain letters that came in the mail, and then this came up, and Facebook is going to start charging you to use Facebook. Facebook and YouTube are going to claim all of your stuff as theirs, and you won't have any more rights to it, and various things like that. And anytime they would see an email or a message with this, they would send it out to everybody. And I mean, multiple times a day. Well, 95% of what they sent out was false and fake and not true. And repeatedly would ask him, hey, stop sending this out. You want people to listen to you. Well, you're crying wolf over uh, puppies. Stop. And the response was, well, I want people to know just in case it is true. Well, we've progressed from that, from spreading all sorts of stuff and the off chance it's true, where now we've got a lot of people that forward and propagate and push things that are blatantly not true. And then we tell people that they should believe us because we're speaking truth, even though we're very obviously not speaking truth about political things and health issues and community issues. And it's really gotten bad. And here's the truth: if you want somebody to listen to you, why are you telling them things that aren't true? Are you going to listen to somebody who's constantly telling you lies, even if they think it's true? If everything coming out of them is fake and false, are you going to listen to them? Probably not. And this is kind of where we've gotten. We like to listen to extreme media on the fringes. If we see it on Facebook, it must be true. If we see it on YouTube, it must be true. If we see it on some obscure website that has a name that sounds like it might be remotely close to legitimate, it must be true. And especially if it fits our worldview and our ideology. And we push and shove all of this stuff, and it's not true. Uh, and I mean, I could give you multiple examples from both the right and the left. It's both sides. This isn't an exclusively one political side or the other thing. Both sides are guilty of it. And especially when it comes to promoting their agenda. Um, just a personal one, the whole election deal where they said that Trump won Arizona and had their whole group down there that was verifying that Trump won. And when this politically oriented group that was funded by Trump wanted Trump to win, counted the votes, they found the opposite, that Biden still won. Okay, now I'm not a fan of either Biden or Trump. So let me just make that clear. I don't have a dog in that fight. But I see both sides that have just really gone crazy with the lies to try to hold up their view. And if you're trying to use lies or possibilities to hold up your view, well, then when it comes to grand things like the scriptures, you've already proven yourself not trustworthy. Are you listening to things that aren't trustworthy? Are you feeding this other stuff in just because you want to hear it? And I'm very careful with who I listen to. I do listen to a wide range of views, but I'll be honest, I generally don't listen to MSNBC. I also don't listen to Newsmax. I view Fox and CNN both with a bit of skepticism because they've become very biased. There was a day when I was growing up when news was not meant to win money. My son did this great video on it, and I should probably link to it in the description. But there was a time when news sources were trustworthy because they weren't in it to make money. They were in it to share the facts and let you make your decision based on what they said. And that's changed. Now they're not so much concerned with facts as they are about what's going to grab your attention and get ad dollars. Not a good way to be. So, trying to find unbiased news sources is more difficult. Let me give you one hint. If it's a talking head, somebody that is analyzing the news, turn it off. Okay. Just turn it off. And that's what most of our news is anymore outside of local news. You get your half-hour news broadcasts, and those are usually legit. But the others, it's hard to find unbiased news. So let me give you some hints here, some tips and tricks to find legitimate news sources, unbiased sources that will give you the facts, and then will use that to help actually establish your opinions based on reality versus pushing a line that isn't based on actual facts and making yourself look silly without even knowing it. So here's a couple websites. I've got 3 websites I use constantly, plus 2 news sites that really all of your news sources, all of them pull from these 2. So if you want the unbiased news, just the facts, this is the places to go. But let me share this first one with you. This is Media Bias Fact Check. Media Bias Fact Check is an amazing site where not only do they fact check things, but they will also let you know if a media source is biased or not. It is wonderful if you really want to see who is biased and who isn't and where they fall on the spectrum. So, just for fun, let's click on the least biased. You'll notice a lot of these are local news stations, but there are actually a number of other news sources here that you can turn to that don't have bias to them. It's an amazing source, and you can actually type in your source right here, media sources, and I'll just look up our local news station just for fun. And KY3 least biased, great local news station. But hey, let's have some fun and let's just try Newsmax. And oh, okay, I got one too many X's. But if you look up Newsmax, um, bias and credibility, questionable source. Yeah, okay, and then they give you the analysis as to why and what's going on. Same thing with MSNBC. You can type in any source here and left bias, moderately and strongly biased towards liberal causes, and they will tell you the bias of it. So, one other news source that I tend to use on a regular basis here is the BBC, left center bias, a little bit. Slight to moderate liberal bias. If I love Israeli news, so let's look up the the Jerusalem Post, and I know this one is biased. Right center, and it will tell you where they fall on the spectrum. So it's a wonderful site if you really want to see where somebody's sources are coming from. Another 2 sites I use to fact check things, PolitiFact is wonderful, and you'll love their liar, liar, pants on fire. They fact checked everybody. So Joe Biden's attorney general, it will tell you Rick Scott's little deal. Not true. And you can just go through with the latest fact checks and see what people are saying, and if it's true, and if it's absolutely not true, and all sorts of wonderful things there. So it's a wonderful site to give you unbiased fact checking. Factcheck.org is another one that is just wonderful. And again, unbiased. I know a lot of people like to use Snopes. I have used Snopes in the past. It has a little bit of a bias. These 2 don't. They are absolutely wonderful if you really want to know what is going on. For example, Southwest got hit by a sick out. No, it didn't. So it's a good way to see what is really going on there. I encourage you, all 3 of these, factcheck.org, PolitiFact, and mediabiasfactcheck.com. I'll put links in the description below for all of them. But if you want news, unbiased news, go to the 2 sources that everybody else goes to. Fox, MSNBC, CNN, your local news, your national news, they all pull from two sources. Your local newspapers, they all pull from two news sources. And I have seen these online word for word at times. One is the AP. APnews.com is going to give you the straight news, and all of them pull from them. And they will take these same news stories and then they'll recast it and add their spin bias onto it. But the AP News is going to give you a wonderful overview of just straight news. AP is wonderful. The other one is Reuters. Reuters tends to have a slightly left leaning, but again, generally fact based. And so you can go through and you can see what each one is saying. Honestly, they are probably my favorite news sources. I use AP the most personally, but I can't recommend enough. Turn off the opinion, turn off the talking heads, turn off social media news because it's not news. Stop being sucked in and fooled by the lies and the propaganda and the misinformation. Get grounded. Fact check everything. It doesn't take long. You can go to these sites and type in what you're looking for and pull it up and check it really quick. Use unbiased news sources, get informed properly, and stop falling victim to the lies and misinformation, the propaganda, because you want to be honest. Even when the facts don't line up with what you want to believe, you want to make sure you're propagating truth, real truth, because when you do that, then when it comes time to preaching this truth, the Bible, people will listen to you. You'll be able to listen to yourself. If you want people to believe you speaking about this, make sure everything else you speak is true. And if you can't fact check it, if you don't know, if you're not sure it falls, just zip your lip. Oh, and by the way, last quote, church isn't a place for politics. Preach Christ in all things and him crucified. Not political parties, not Republicans, Democrats. Preach Christ. Your political views are never going to win anybody to God, but Jesus will. Let him be the one that speaks in your life, not the others. God bless.